But it's massive. Look at the press interest ever since that engagement announcement in last year, and the follow-up from that has been quite exceptional. It's going to be, you know, a major event.
I think it's without doubt that William is actually dreading this wedding. He hates pomp and ceremony, he hates flummery, he hates all that sort of thing. And I think he will be thinking now, God, I just want to get this over with, and I want to go back to Anglesey and be a helicopter pilot with his new wife.
She said that she'd met this really nice boy, and she said, boy. I said, right. I said, what's his name? And she said, Willie.
We were on a trip with some very sick children, and at the end William said to me, you know, Arthur, you must never retire. And I said, William, I'm not going to retire till I take your wedding pictures. He said, you'll have a bit of a wait. Well, it wasn't too long.
After years of waiting, speculation and rumours, Prince William of Wales and Catherine Middleton are to be married. And nobody who watched their smiling faces as they announced their engagement could deny that these were two people who were very much in love.
You know, when I first met Kate, I knew there was something very special about him, and that I knew that there was possibly something that I wanted to explore there. But we ended up being friends for a while, and that just sort of was a good sort of foundation. I'm obviously extremely funny, and she loves that, so it's really good.
This marriage is important to the future of the monarchy because people see William as the new golden boy, and with his beautiful bride, they can carry forward maybe where Charles and Diana left off, or maybe they can do what Charles and Diana never did, which was work as a brilliant team. And you know, the world is really their oyster. They can do so much. And I think that's what the Queen sees in this union, and it's very, very important that it works. And she is putting all her support behind it.
I think the royal family is obviously incredibly fond of Kate. The Queen must have given her discreet seal of approval. Prince Charles was very effusive when they announced their engagement, and Prince Harry gave them the ultimate accolade, saying that Kate was like a sister to him.
So, Britain is set for the biggest royal event since the marriage of Charles and Diana over 30 years ago. But this is going to be a very modern royal marriage, of a new, modern style of royal couple.
I think most would agree that it stands a very, very high chance of success, this marriage, because they know each other so well. That said, they've got more pressure on them than almost any other royal couple before them, because obviously the Queen has had 3 out of her 4 children divorcing, so the pressure on William to make this work is unbelievable.
Over the next hour, we're going behind the scenes of the biggest royal event for 30 years. An exclusive glimpse of the people who make it all happen. From the chefs to the cake makers, and from the florists to the carriages. And, of course, the dress.
Everything, from where people are sitting, to the timing, to the carriages, to the food, the drink, the flowers, everything will be planned to the tiniest detail.
On the day of the wedding, when they're coming back from the church, everything in the kitchen starts to get a bit hectic. Before that, it's quite regimented and organised, but the sooner it gets to the time for the wedding breakfast, that's when the panic buttons start.
It's an amazing feeling to create a royal wedding cake, because it's something different, it's something unique. This is possibly a cake for the future King of England.
They're calling it one of the great love stories of our time. And it all started when William first met Kate at St Andrews University in Scotland, when they were both just 19.
We were friends for over a year first, and it just sort of blossomed from then on. We just spent more time with each other, had a good giggle, had lots of fun, and realised we shared the same interests, and just, you know, had a really good time. She's got a really nice sense of humour, which kind of helps me because I've got a very dirty sense of humour. So it was good fun. We had a really good laugh, and then things happened.
It was a slow burning thing. It started off as a friendship. They were in halls together, they had classes together, they had things in common. It then extended to getting to know each other better on the sports field, and then it was the fashion show that allegedly, and I think truthfully, made William view Kate in a totally different way. And I'll never forget it, she walked out in this sort of amazing, sort of slightly see-through negligee, and most people there realised his eyes just sort of followed her around. That was the day that he began to look at her in a different way.
Well, at St Andrews, girls literally threw themselves at William. They really did. And Kate didn't. And of course, you know, all men like to chase. And I think she gave him a bit of a good run. And obviously he started to fall deeply in love with her.
They lived together in Sinet University. They shared a flat and later a house. They ordered takeaways. They cooked together in the kitchen and burnt the odd saucepan, and generally lived like any other student romance.
I think, needless to say, William was very much viewed as a catch by the young ladies at the time. He was also physically looking very good. There were really nice shots of him in sort of camel-coloured jumpers and blue jeans, sort of, you know, slumping on the bonnet of his car outside Highgrove. So he had become a man, and I think the women of the world were aware of that.
Eventually, Prince William popped the question to Catherine while on a romantic holiday at the Liwa Game Reserve in Kenya.
He carried the engagement ring, his mother's engagement ring, which quite frankly is worth a fortune, around in his rucksack for 3 weeks. Thank goodness he didn't lose it.
I think that the fact that William gave Kate his mother's ring was incredibly important, because they are the two women that he's obviously loved more than anyone else, and they are sort of united by the ring. And Kate's intelligent enough to know that, you know, it's a sign of great respect that he gave her his mother's ring.
On the day of the photo call, we had a cup of tea with William and Kate, several of us, and he said to me, I'd like you to meet Kate, Arthur, and introduced me to her. And he then went on to, you know, show me the ring that, of course, is Diana's ring, and I said, well, I must take a photograph of that, and that's when he called me and said, Arthur, you come and take a picture of the ring, and I did. And she was so nervous, her hand was shaking, he had to hold her hand steady so I could photograph it.
So the date is set, Friday the 29th of April. The wedding invites have gone out and the venue has been chosen, Westminster Abbey.
The whole point of the Abbey, with Henry III building it, was to build the most magnificent church in the world for these great ceremonies. I think it really was established by the marriage of the Queen and then the Queen's sister, Princess Margaret, her daughter, Princess Anne. And it was really a big break by then with tradition when Prince Charles went to St. Paul's in 1981. Before the ceremony begins, Prince William, his best man, the royal family will all be in place up before the high altar. And then Kate will process up from the West End, through the whole length of the nave, through the choir screen, to join her future husband up on the great steps where their kneelers are going to be placed. And then the ceremony takes place up by the high altar, and then at the end of it, they process back down through the choir, through the nave, to the great clanging chimes of the organ, and in a way to the applause perhaps of people outside the Abbey who've been watching it on great screens.
William has chosen his brother Harry to be his best man at his wedding, while Kate Middleton's sister Philippa will be her maid of honour. Around 2,000 guests have been invited to the wedding ceremony at Westminster Abbey, and a further 600 to the reception at Buckingham Palace.
Well, the wedding is scheduled to start at 11 o'clock, which means it will start at 11 o'clock. And they really dislike the bride being late. I think Diana was 32 seconds late, and it sort of wobbled the arrangements. And after the wedding, William and Kate will drive back in an open carriage to Buckingham Palace, and I think they are then scheduled to be on the balcony for the kiss at about 1 o'clock. And then there will be a reception at the palace, and William and Kate will drive back to Clarence House for a rest before the evening's festivities begin.
This wedding is going to be quite an unusual royal wedding. Kate is the first commoner for 350 years to marry a future king. So there will be a variety of middle-class relatives of the Middletons, as well as the usual array of royals and aristocrats and heads of state.
The ticket to the Abbey is the hottest ticket in town. We know that. And I think the main thrust is going to be William and Kate's friends. I mean, obviously after 9 years together, they've got mostly mutual friends. But William's also said that he wants some representatives of his charity there. Then obviously there'll be the Middleton family and their friends.
I think William's perfect idea of a wedding would be an elopement. I think he would rather go off to Kenya, to Jacka Craig's estate, get married there in privacy with his parents and her parents and a few close friends. I think William would like the wedding to number no more than about 25. However, that ain't gonna happen.
One of the key elements of any wedding are the flowers. Edward Goodyear in London have been providing them to the royal family since the time of Queen Victoria, and are currently florists by royal appointment to both Her Majesty the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh. They are creating one of the table arrangements for the wedding reception in Buckingham Palace.
Kate and William, they're obviously very English and very classic. They probably go quite neutral because it's sort of the most modern trend at the moment. And it's very sort of wild and country feel, which we think they'll probably both quite like because they don't like the regalness. They're sort of down-to-earth, modern young couple.
The table centres are extremely important because of the size of the rooms. So they do need some very special arrangements.
We've got about a selection of about 8 different varieties of flowers just to fill it up and give it a bit of variety. But obviously all sort of within the same colour scheme and different shapes and textures to make the arrangement look quite varied.
Her Majesty the Queen is very interested in flowers, and she loves particular flowers, which I can't say really because that's a personal thing, but she definitely loves flowers, and she actually loves arranging her own personal flowers that she's given.
This one I've got here is lilac, which is very popular in spring. That's which will be readily available at the time of their getting married. And you've got the big white hydrangea heads here. They're quite sort of classic and English, and this is the Guelder rose, just to give it a bit of variety and a bit of colour.
The inspiration is that the arrangement is very English and could have come from a very large church in the country. It's got an English feel to it and has English flowers, but it also has the Kentian fern, which of course is where William and Kate were engaged or got engaged.
This is a cream avalanche rose, English grown, and we believe this is what Lady Diana had in her bouquet on her wedding day when she married Charles. Just quite a nice link because we believe obviously William wants her to be part of the day, and we think that they might pick that up with the flowers. We've got these beautiful orchids to drape in, which Diana had in her bouquet. Not traditionally English, but incredibly beautiful and quite modern for a young couple. When this is on the table, it's going to smell absolutely amazing, because obviously you've got the roses and the lilac. It's going to smell fantastic, but you've also got some sort of organic foliages, so you've got the rosemary and that sort of thing in there, and that's going to smell absolutely beautiful.
When you're dealing with a royal event, there is always the pressure of doing the work absolutely to the top standard, and sometimes because there are many other staff working on the tables or whatever, that provides some difficulties. But the pressure is really because it's such a special occasion always.
This is obviously a lot bigger arrangement than what the average person would have on their wedding day, mainly because they're royals and it's going to be seen by the world and it will be replicated a million times over and watched by millions and millions, so it's a lot of pressure for whoever's doing it.
The wedding dress is for many the main talking point of the day. But what will it look like? And who's making it?
I think when you go on the catwalk, you know, they will probably put like veil and stuff. And if
Elizabeth Emanuel made the iconic fairy tale wedding dress for Princess Diana and knows all too well the pressures of the job.
Well, I've got to say, when we heard that we were going to be doing the wedding dress, that's when the pressure started, because we were aware that there was going to be hundreds of millions of people watching, and so although we tried to put that to the back of our minds, you know, it was lucky we had a lot to think about, and we were very, very busy, because otherwise, you know, it would have almost been too much.
Diana was very hands-on in the design and creation of her dress.
Well, we wanted to make the dress very dramatic, and we thought, well, you know, traditionally the wedding dress does have a train, and but let's make it the longest possible. So Diana liked that idea that we would make it longer than any other royal wedding train. So the longest, we'd done a bit of research, I think it was 23 feet. So we thought, well, let's add on the extra 2, make it really, really long. But still, looking back at the footage from those years ago, you know, you see her coming out the coach, and that is my favourite shot of all time, when she's coming out of the coach, and she's virtually at the top of the steps of St Paul's, and her train is still in the coach. And I just love that, and I don't think either of us realised the impact. You know, we were thinking in our heads of doing the dress, the train, and visions a bit up the aisle, but that bit was my favourite when she was going up the steps. I loved that.
30 years on, and it will be Catherine Middleton's turn to stun the world in her own wedding dress. But what will it look like?
I think it's very, very possible that Catherine may want to, you know, surprise everybody, because, you know, she's you know, seen being photographed and making statements with what she wears now, and it may be she'll want people to, you know, be surprised. There may be an interesting twist on the design, something unexpected, and especially if there are no rules and regulations, you don't really know what that might be.
I don't think she's going to basically go for the typical meringue, but I think something very, very maybe fitted on the actual waist and fitted onto the hips, but the fullness at the side. Possibly, I think, a full-length veil and a very regal sort of type tiara. I think possibly with a hair down, possibly maybe half up, half down. But I think she's generally going to go for something very classic, nothing too over the top.
I think Kate's gone from a traditional home counties girl in her cowboy boots and jeans and flowery skirts to quite an elegant young woman, and I'm sure, just as Princess Diana was emulated around the world, I'm sure Kate will be. Her Topshop dress that she wore on her 25th birthday, and the dress the Easter dress that she wore for her engagement announcement sold out within hours.
I think Kate will become a complete and utter superstar. Everywhere she goes, she's going to be photographed. Her clothes are already copied. Her look, her hair, her shoes, what she says. People will hang on to her every word. And, you know, she will be like, she's our Hollywood, she's our movie star.
Jessica Hay was Catherine's closest friend and roommate at Marlborough College. For 3 years, they shared their work, their secrets, and their crushes.
William did come to a hockey game at one point when we were at Marlborough, and obviously Catherine is an amazing hockey player. She played centre forward, and she was the captain of the first hockey team. And I think as soon as he saw her, his eyes lit up. She said, I'd love to become a princess one day. I'd love to marry Prince William. It would be just, you know, the icing on the cake. It would be a wonderful life, and he seems like a lovely guy. And the fact that she was so down to earth about it made it seem like she probably was going to go, you know, that's probably fate. And it's happened. It's very, very odd.
For Kate's generation, William was definitely the #1 pin-up. He was the most eligible bachelor in Britain, if not the world. So every girl wanted to snare him, and I'm sure Kate was no different.
But according to Jessica, it wasn't only William who was a pin-up.
All of the older boys absolutely loved her. She was put on the top of the fit list. So, but she wasn't really interested. She preferred to just concentrate on her own future rather than, you know, boys running after her, which they did.
I think she's a very sensible girl. I think she's very grounded. She comes from a very loving and stable family, and I think that's what attracts William.
Obviously, after Marlborough, she went to university. We lost touch for a couple of months, and then she got back in touch with me. And I was traveling around America at the time, and she said that she met this really nice boy. And she said, "Boy." I said, "Right." I said, "What's his name?" And she said, "Willie." Willie. I said, "All right, it sounds nice." And she said, "Oh, you've met him before, Eton." And it was. Then we found out that it was the same Willie that I'd met years and years before. And she did say that he was absolutely lovely, and she said she thinks she might have fallen in love.
No wedding is complete without a stunning wedding cake. David McCaffrey has made them for the royal weddings of Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, as well as Prince Edward and Sophie Rhys-Jones. And now he's busy on a huge creation for William and Catherine.
And when I'm embracing the royal wedding cake, I'm embracing the monarchy, but the history of the monarchy, so the grandeur, etc. So it's going to be something very lavish, very ornate, something that people are going to go, hopefully, wow. And, you know, it'll just be standing there and I go, I want the wow factor kind of thing, and big.
David has decided to create a massive 7-tiered fruit cake, covered first in marzipan and decorated with royal icing sugar.
The first step of preparation would be putting marzipan on the fruit cake. There's two reasons that we do this. One, it's a surface to coat the royal icing onto, and secondly, it seals the fruit cake from the royal icing and keeps the cake fresh. It's like plastering a wall. So if you're into plastering, it's the same scenario. You're spreading the icing onto the cake, coating the cake around the sides. Next stage is the overpiping. Once you've done all your coating and you're happy with it, you know, weigh the cake up, start with the piping, and basically we're just going to build layers and layers of piping. And there's no rules, there's no, you know, you can go as fine or as detailed as you want to, but to create the lavish look, the ornate look, the antique look, etc., we want to go with lots of different layers. So we would start with a thicker piping tube and start piping the layers around. Once the pattern's sort of being created, and then from that, more and more layers on top. And it's a case of keeping your hands straight rather than shaking, because if you're feeling nervous, if you're having a bad day, obviously the piping won't turn out as good as it can do, you know. So it's all about the mindset, it's all about staying calm and enjoying the experience rather than getting stressed out about it, you know. Sometimes I do, but you know, 99% of the time I'm happy, and I'm just saying to myself, it doesn't matter what time it is, it doesn't matter if I have to work extra hours to do this, it's a case of giving my best shot and getting it so I'm happy with it at the same time as hopefully everyone else will be. It's an amazing feeling to create a royal wedding cake, because it's something different, it's something unique, it's something special, you know. I mean, I treat everyone, every bride and groom who comes to us as special, but this is possibly a cake for the future King of England. The next stage will be putting the flowers onto the cake, and design the cake so, in effect, if you look at it, the top tier looks like a crown. It could be on your head. So the flowers really on the top tier decided how the rest of the cake was going to be. So as you look at it, you've got the crown of flowers and then just subtle, you know, flowers down the cake. The flowers are made of sugar, but it's a different type of sugar. It's not an icing sugar, it's like a fondant icing, it's called. It's like a Play-Doh, like a plasticine, and you obviously mould it to soften it down, and then you can texture it and then work it. Now, we don't use any cutters or modelling tools. These are all handmade, so every flower, like a natural flower, will have its own personality, so no flower ever looks the same. So from the point of view of looking at the finished cake, it's got more of a natural look of real flowers.
After days of work, it all comes down to the careful final stacking of the finished cake. One slip and it's disaster.
But I just knew at one point, you know, that big, but don't drop it. And in the end, as you say, I put it on. We were all right.
For any bride, her hair is just as important as her dress. Lino Carbosiero, at the exclusive Daniel Galvin salon in London, has done the hair at a number of royal events, as well as for Princess Diana. He has very clear ideas on how Catherine's hair should look on her wedding day.
I think the hairstyle's got to be something quite streamlined and detailed, but not overpowering. It mustn't be about the hair. It must be about her, her body, her face, and then everything else just... She's the picture, everything else is the frame. I've decided to go with this Spanish-styled señorita look. I think that because of the beauty of the face and the eyes and everything, I just think it should be off the face. I definitely feel that there'll be that sophistication, but that modernness with it. And I feel that there's got to be detail, and the detail needs to be at the back, because the front is going to be completely all about the tiara. She will wear a veil, and I think through the veil you want to see a little bit of intricacy and a little bit of detail. So you by combing a square section from where you want the tiara to start, you bring the hair lightly forward, okay? You don't hold it tight, you loosely hold that, slightly gripped, and you backcomb. Backcombing is basically pushing the comb down into itself, and while I'm doing that, I'm releasing some of the hair up there, and what that will do is just give you some scaffolding in there, okay? And that's now going to be that's going to be this supporting that, you see? So when I push that in and bring that forward, it's just going to give a little bit of detail behind the tiara, otherwise it would be just all one big tiara. The reason I've left this bit of hair out here is this bit of hair here is what's going to tie it up later. It's going to come round and just clean up any bits and bobs that I've left out, okay? With Kate, I think that if she just has a little bit more detailing put around the front of the style that she's got, yeah, we'll have a lot of people coming in and having the cape, without a doubt. Whatever she does now, from now on, even if she does a little bit slightly shorter fringe or a bit more layering, or if it comes up slightly, it'll be called the cape and everyone will want it. I'm really happy with that, and as you can see, I know you're wearing a shirt, but the minute I do that, look at the shape of the neck, the face. Look, I mean, it's a beautiful shape. For me, fit for a princess.
The wedding will be a huge day for Britain, with over 1 million people expected to line the parade route from Buckingham Palace to Westminster Abbey. But with the size of the event come real issues of security and threats from terrorists or just cranks. Ken Wharf was the personal bodyguard to the Princess of Wales and protected her and Prince William for nearly a decade.
To the left now we have Buckingham Palace, and there are three main gates at the palace. What is referred to as the North Centre and the South Centre, which are gates used on a daily basis by staff. But the North Centre gate, the gate in the middle, is the gate known as the ceremonial gate, which will be the gate that Prince William and Catherine will leave and begin their route now along the Mall here towards Westminster Abbey. I mean, security of any royal operation is always something that's taken, incredibly seriously. So you'll see, quite honestly, an operation here that's almost unprecedented in the sense that we can expect to see body scanners on the route, and there will be some serious checking of individuals on the route itself. It won't be just turn up and be a free-for-all, because the risk will be too great. But the actual route itself is small enough in the scale of things to give this as near as 100% security as possible. Just imagine this route we're on now, that there are probably between 6-10 deep of people all the way down this way, all the way down the Mall here. And it's estimated that on the streets of London alone there will be millions rather than thousands. The police now have to prepare for this. The greatest saviour in the sense is that Scotland Yard, the Metropolitan Police, have a real checked, trusted track record on this, in the sense that we police major events, ceremonial events and world events. So I have no doubt in my mind that given the complications of this, that the Yard will come up with the goods on the day. Of that I'm absolutely certain. Ahead of me now, the Westminster, Palace of Westminster, the House of Commons, and my right-hand side now, crowds already outside number 10 Downing Street itself, guarded by the Raillingham Police, and that's where the Prime Minister is. And then this is really the closing stages of the journey from Buckingham Palace. And now, as you can see, the Westminster Abbey here, and the procession would slow down here to do a left turn in front of the west door. So the carriage would stop here and then process through to the west door of the Abbey.
The royal family will travel to and from Westminster Abbey in a fleet of carriages from the Royal Mews. Barry Luck has been a carriage driver for over 30 years and has driven at many royal events.
The royal family will be using carriages, and this would be their transport. Country as well, they'd use them out in the country to go to church and that sort of thing. These are good lads. The vehicle is suspended on leather straps, which are called C-springs, so it's a chassis and a body which are separate, and it does float about. So there is a motion sickness can happen, yes. With a carriage like this, there would have often been a rail across here with spikes on it to stop the urchins getting on the back. And if an urchin was riding, sitting on the axle, somebody from on the pavement would shout, "Whip behind," and the coachman would whip behind to try and knock them off the back of the carriage. These are 10 and 11-year-old Polish horses, and we've had them from youngsters, bred them for the job, and they're very good in London traffic. They will put up with most things. These horses love doing weddings and events, and with his people about, they certainly do show off, yes. I think they can sense an occasion, and they often work and play to the people that are there. As you can see, this is fairly tight in here. People were smaller in those days, so 4 people would have sat in there comfortably, where now it is a little bit more of a struggle. And to get a wedding dress in through there, it is tight. Everything has to be perfect on the day. There isn't any margin for error. It's rehearsed, even to the person putting the blocks on the wheels to stop it moving when they're getting in. It is rehearsed to perfection, so they just cannot go wrong. They mustn't go wrong.
The wedding reception at Buckingham Palace will be a lavish affair. The very finest china, silverware and crystal, all set up and served with military precision.
I think the thing about going to Buckingham Palace is that you are absolutely overawed by all the the things around you. They're very, very big rooms with high ceilings, and the most magnificent collection of pictures, magnificent collections of china. And that's when you see the measuring of the table, you know, so that each place is so many inches away from the next place, and that people aren't sort of elbowing each other out because, you know, they're too crushed in.
The table settings upstairs are, they've got to be absolutely perfect. First of all, the table has to be polished, and everything is laid down absolutely, obsessively, and it's measured with a ruler, and everything is absolutely perfect.
And I'm not saying it's all sort of hugely over-gilded or anything like that, but I mean, they have got beautiful collections of china and beautiful centerpieces of things to put on buffet tables, of wonderful silverware or even giltware. You've got the sense of occasion just by walking through those doors.
The party in the evening, well, you know, William probably wants to have an absolute knees up and get all his favourite wrappers there and things. But I think it is given by his father, Prince Charles, so I think it will probably be stadish. But, you know, who knows, when you've got those boys there, you know, the place will probably rock like it's never rocked before.
It's up to the kitchens at Buckingham Palace to serve a buffet-style meal to the 600 guests at the reception. Graham Newbold was a royal chef for over a decade and has created his own classic menu for the occasion.
The start is going to be quenelles of brill to Harry. That's with lobster sauce, white wine sauce, asparagus spears, a medallion of lobsters. And the first thing I have to do is prepare the lobster. The royal family like plain sort of food, really fresh stuff like salmon caught from Balmoral, and fresh lamb and things like that. They don't like anything that's been processed with E numbers or anything like that. This dish is the actual first course for Prince Charles and Princess Diana's wedding, way back in 1981. The royal family aren't really fussy eaters. They can go out any time and get flashy food, but they don't want that. There's no need for that. This is a fillet of brill, very nice dish, similar to turbot, but a little bit smaller. Quite expensive, but lovely flavour. There are 20 chefs that work at Buckingham Palace. Most of them are English. That's probably because the royals like English food. They've been there like a long time, like over 20 years. What I'm trying to do here is build up layers of flavour. The next to go in will be the garlic. So, all that lovely flavour. The kitchens at Buckingham Palace are absolutely massive. And I suppose they've got to be to accommodate 20 chefs. But very, very well equipped, modern and spotless. Put in about a third of a bottle. When working for the royals, everything is regimented down to the second. The pieces of brill, put them in the food processor. So these are called quenelles. If you did the same shape with ice cream, it would be called rocher. And the royal family love both, really. This dish is a classical dish invented by Auguste Escoffier. When you're a chef at Buckingham Palace, you need to be a really good all-rounder. You need to be able to make anything, really. Fish, pies, roasts, desserts, afternoon teas, breakfasts. So it's not that easy. William sometimes used to come into the kitchen and have a bit of a carry-on and start throwing golf balls at me, and I just sort of had to put him right, really. This is one of the favourite dishes of the Queen. That's probably why it's been chosen for such a special occasion. And there we have quenella brill to Paris. Also a nice bit of lobster garnish and some asparagus. I'm now preparing the potatoes for the rack of lamb à la Dubarry. These are what's known as chateau potatoes. They have 7 sides and it's a classic potato, invented again by a Scopier. Her Majesty is absolutely fantastic. No airs and graces. She has such an aura about her when she walks in the room, and I can do nothing but respect her. I mean, she's really, really great. I'm going to put the lamb in the oven now, but first I'm going to drain the fat off and use it for my potatoes. There we go. That should take approximately 10 minutes. When you're doing a big function, like a state visit or a wedding, I mean, there is quite a bit of stress on it, because you've got to realise that, I mean, most of the world is watching, and you can't make any mistakes. It is a little bit stressful. This is a classic dish. There we go. Rack of lamb à la Dubarry, fit for a prince and a princess.
So after a day of pomp and ceremony, of massive crowds and huge feasts, it will be time for the newly wedded Prince William of Wales and Princess Catherine to head off on honeymoon and start their new life together.
I don't think one can have a better ambassador than a gorgeous young couple, which William and Kate are. I think they will be fantastic ambassadors for this country.
Kate will be a breath of fresh air for the monarchy. She's very comfortable in her own skin and very stable, and she's not going to embarrass them by selling her story or talking to reporters and briefing them about things going on behind the scenes.
Kate will become a complete and utter superstar. Everywhere she goes, she's going to be photographed. Her clothes are already copied. Her look, her hair, her shoes, what she says. People will hang on to her every word.
I think that they are going to be the most solid royal couple we've had since the Queen and Prince Philip. I definitely think so. They are completely in love, dedicated to each other. They mesh well together, they work well together, and I think they both have the same personalities, but above all, they're very normal.
I think William and Kate can conquer the world. I think every country in the world will want them as guests and come and see them, and the crowds will be as big as it was for Charles and Diana.
They've got more pressure on them than almost any other royal couple before them, because obviously the Queen has had 3 out of her 4 children divorcing, so the pressure on William to make this work is unbelievable. I think it will work, I really believe it will, and I personally obviously wish them the very best of luck, but by God it's going to be a tough job.
using your cups and your glasses. Have you? No, use that. Use
So, there we are again. Hello. 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 There we are again. Again, Chris and Rosalie. I've known you a long time, so frankly, there's very little. Let us hope that there will be, and that you will find every day kinship together. The most important thing is you can remain friends, you'll wrestle the things. So, with that, let me wish you all the best, and I hope us to go. So Chris, for Rosie.
Cheers. Can we stand up, please, and toast? So Chris and Rose.
Rosalie.
He who finds a wife has found a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. You found the harmony to the song you sing. You can do anything in one accord. You were a father and a brother and a lover and a cover and a teacher and a everything. She's your mother and your sister and your lover and your cover and your teacher and your everything. Only mole aire. So don't take a smile away. Oh no, only alabare. From today your wedding day. Orukati dawana, di ololufere mu, konseni tole yani titi lai. Orukati dawana, di ololufere mu, konseni tole yani titi lai. Orukati dawana, di ololufere mu, konseni tole yani titi lai. Orukati dawana, di ololufere mu, konseni tole yani titi lai. It's your wedding day, so be happy and rejoice. Whatever they say, today you made your your choice. This is only where one and one is one. Oh, Lolufe, together you belong. Only mole aire. Oh, so don't take a smile away. No. Only from today your wedding day. Orukati dawana, di Ololufe mu. Kò sẹ́ni tó lè yà yín títí láé, títí láé o. Orukati dawana, di Ololufe mu. Kò sẹ́ni tó lè yà yín títí láé, títí láé. Orukati dawana, di Ololufe mu. Kò sẹ́ni tó lè yà yín títí láé, títí láé o. Orukati dawana, di Ololufe mu. Kò sẹ́ni tó lè yà yín títí láé, títí láé, 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 na, na, na. The Lord is your shepherd, you shall not want. He will lead you by the still waters. He's always there, so you have nothing to fear. Come on, say bye 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 to mommy, bye 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 to daddy. You wanna be with your wifey, bye 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 to daddy. Mommy say you wanna be with your husband, bye 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 to daddy. Mommy don't cry, 'cause your baby girl has become a woman. Daddy don't cry, 'cause your baby boy has become a man today. Bye bye bye, bye bye bye, bye bye bye, bye bye bye.
Especially for you, I wanna let you know what I was going through. All the time we were apart, I thought of you. You were in my heart, my love never changed. I still feel the same.
Especially for you, I wanna tell you I was feeling that way too. And if dreams were wings, you know, I would have flown to you, to be where you are.
No matter how far, and now that I'm next to you,
No more dreaming about tomorrow. Forget the loneliness and the sorrow.
I'm gonna say it's all because of you. And now we're back together, together. I wanna show you my heart is so, so true. And all the love I have is especially for you. Especially for you. I wanna tell you, you mean all the world to me.
How I'm certain that our love was meant to be. You changed my life.
You showed me the way, and now that I'm next to you,
I waited long enough to find you. I wanna put all the hurt behind you.
I wanna bring out all the love inside you. Oh, and now we're back together.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yes, this is what I'm saying. I hate it when people start telling you what to do. To blame. What's your job?
Thank you.
Okay.
Auntie, sorry. Auntie, get me the lemon now.
Hold on first. Huh? Okay. Hold on first. Your dad video man is coming.
Oh no. Yeah. Look at me, small. Small, please. Yeah. Eh? Go and check. There's one mom. Check the suitcase. You know that's spot.
Hello, girls. How are you? How are you feeling today? What is happening today? Wedding, huh? Whose wedding? Your mom's wedding, huh? Auntie Mary's wedding, huh?
We're late. We're running late. Please,
okay. Easy. Madam Brazil.
Morning, how are you?
Sorry. Looking very nice. Hey, Tracy, looking nice. So what are you doing last night? You are honor petition. Hello, Bryce. You're looking beautiful. You're looking absolutely beautiful. Congratulations. Let me have the smoke camera.
There's only you in my life. The only thing that's right.
Hello. You're fine. Thanks for you. How are you?
I was inside there. Yes, we were inside the premises. Come. Let's go that person. Where is Angel?
Come on. Yeah. Gently. Yeah. Wait.